of November 2023 for the continuation of the State of the Constituency debate. I would like to extend a special welcome to those who are joining us online via social media platforms, PBCJ live stream, and those persons who choose to be here with us sitting in the gallery today. Oh, supporting a very good member, East Portland. Sorry, no clapping in the gallery, please. Thank you. Call of the roll.
Mr. Bartlett, Mr. Holness, Dr. Clark, Dr. Chung, Ms. Grange.
Nobody not listening. Nobody not listening to you. Members, we'll now have call of the roll.
Mr. Bartlett, Mr. Holness, Dr. Clark, Dr. Chung, Ms. Grange, Mr. McKenzie, Mr. Chuck, Dr. Tufton, Mrs. Williams, Mr. Vaz, Mrs. Malou Fort, Mr. Charles, Mr. Green, Mr. Morgan, Mr. Warmington, Mr. Main, Mrs. Cuthbert Flynn, Mr. Terry Long, Dr. Dunn, Mr. Hutchinson, Mr. Witter, Ms. Smith, Mr. Davis, Mr. Brown, Dr. Brown-Burke, Dr. Charles, Mr. Chin, Mr. Cousins, Ms. Crawford, Ms. Daly, Ms. Davis, Mr. Golding, Mr. Graham, Dr. Guy, Ms. Hamilton, Ms. Hannah, Mr. Henriquez, Mr. Henry, Mr. Hilton, Mr. Jackson, Mr. Lawrence, Ms. Lee, Mr. Miller, Mr. Montague, Ms. Morrison, Mrs. Nita Garvey, Mr. Paulwell, Mr. Phillips, Dr. Phillips, Mr. Robertson, Mr. Robinson, Mr. Samuda, Mr. Shaw, Mr. Siblist, Mr. Slowly, Mrs. Vaz, Dr. Wheatley, Mr. Williams, Mr. Wilson, and Mr. Wright. Mrs. Cuthbert Flynn.
House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to join you, sir, in welcoming the members of the gallery from the great constituency, -1, of East Portland. And I'm sure that they will be delighted to hear the account of the stewardship of their Member of Parliament, who has done an excellent job for representing them over the last 2 terms. Mr. Speaker, today we pause to recall and reflect on the life of one who had been in this honorable House for 2 terms and who also served as a Minister of Cabinet, having responsibilities for national security, for justice, and also as the Attorney General of Jamaica. I refer, Mr. Speaker, colleagues, to Mr. Winston Spalding, QC, a Jamaican of extremely proud vintage. He's a man who walks humbly but with pride. A man who really understood what it was to serve, was committed to serving, and executed his duties with great assiduity. Winston Spalding was no ordinary politician. In fact, he emerged at a time when Jamaica's political landscape was, to say the least, turbulent. It was a period of great uncertainty, too, when the country was torn between political positions and when, unfortunately, the specter of tribalism began to emerge in a manner that was unprecedented in our history. But Winston Spalding was committed to human rights. He was one of the real strong advocates of human rights in Jamaica, and he spent a lot of his time and practice in defending individuals, particularly those who were less fortunate and unable to deliver the type of resources that was required to secure justice at the highest level. Winston Spalding was so committed to democracy and to the electoral process that he spent an enormous amount of time and resources in struggling to get the electoral reforms that Jamaica now enjoys and to put us on a plane where we are part of the model of real democracy across the world and where our electoral system is seen as being at a high level of both efficiency and integrity. I recall very well the landmark case of Buck versus King in Eastern Hanover. And that really changed the game in terms of cleaning up the electoral system. And it gave rise in time to the establishment of the Electoral Commission. And before that, we had the Electoral Advisory Committee. And I think members like Carlson Miuda here would appreciate that development in the early stages of the transformation of our electoral system and practice in Jamaica. He spent long hours in the courts advocating for these changes, and he was responsible for ensuring that the rights of the people of Jamaica was preserved at all times. As a Minister of Justice and a Minister of National Security and Attorney General of Jamaica, he underscored the commitment to upholding the rule of law and to ensure the safety and well-being of the Jamaican people. He was a representative of a constituency that I have the honor of representing today. Winston Spalding won East Central St. James by then the largest majority, just about 4,000. I managed to eclipse that in the last election with a margin of a little bit north of 4,000. And so he and I share that tradition of representation in the constituency. He then came to representation in the corporate area as the Member of Parliament for Southeast St. Andrew. And at that time, I was in fact the member for Eastern St. Andrew. So he was on one side of the road on Mountain View, and I was on the other side of the road. But we worked very closely and well, and I enjoyed also the privilege of sitting next to him in cabinet in the 80s as a young minister of youth, sports, and community development at the time under the prime ministership of the most honorable Edward Philip George Siaga. So, Madam, Mr. Speaker, you know you're going to suffer that a little bit until we get accustomed to it. So, Mr. Speaker, it is really with a great sense of pride that I reference his life and the achievements of this great son of Jamaica. And we say our goodbyes with a heart that is full of thankfulness, because few have walked through these walls in a period of 8 to 9 years and have accomplished as much as Winston Spalding. I close by saying that Winston Spalding emanated from a family of well-known politicians. And the interesting thing is that at one stage of the game, two brothers on different sides of the aisle were sitting in this honorable house, when both Winston Spalding and Anthony Spalding from the PNP as brothers were in this hallowed chamber. Madam Speaker, in traditional form, we would ask that the appropriate note be sent to his dear widow of long standing, Carol Spalding, an outstanding lady, and we are really proud of how she has worked and stayed with Winston even during his illness, his long illness. And Carol was there, and the children and all. May his soul rest in peace and light perpetual shine on him.
Member, you have to come down lower. Those mics are not.
Am I on? Yes. Oh, thank you. Before I start, Mr. Speaker, let me say how very happy I am for the first time to address you formally as Mr. Speaker, the Deputy Speaker of the House. I just wondered how long it would take to get to where you are now. And I contemplate the distance you have to travel to become the Speaker of the House, as I know you will one day. Proud of you. And those who know will understand those words I've just uttered. Mr. Speaker, I could not allow this moment to pass without saying a few words about my old friend, Winston. Winston Spalding came to the Jamaica Labour Party on around 75, 76 and ran in the constituency of Southeast St. Andrew under a state of emergency, as so many of us. He wasn't successful on that occasion, but he persevered, never gave up, and he was called to duty to serve in East Central St. James. But before getting to that, Winston Spalding was arguably the greatest crusader for the concept and principle of equal rights and justice for all. He was an avid defender of the rights of every Jamaican, And I would dare say, depending not on the side of this chamber that the person happened to come from. He taught us a lot, and he worked very hard in a very committed way as a strong and productive supporter of then leader Edward Seaga. What is very little known, and you know, I'm going to take the liberty of calling a couple of names in here who are not in the House but need to be recalled. Winston formed in the dark days for the Labour Party between 1976 and 1980, along with people like Jerry Grinley, Abe Dabdoob, and others, to create an atmosphere that led to us being in a position to contest the 1980 elections, despite having fought in 76 through a state of emergency and lost. His contribution to the enablement of the Jamaica Labour Party government at that time to be successful in 1980 was something that we will not easily forget. In addition to that success, he was made minister, or as a consequence of that success, he was made Minister of National Security and Justice. Something that is rarely done, but the quality of his contribution was such that the then Prime Minister felt it appropriate to name him to those two portfolios together. Winston had with him, as the House leader has said, his family members, one on that side and he on this side. But you know, I remember his father so well, and his brother. And I mean, I can tell this House that I have, in my political life, I've enjoyed a relationship on both sides of the aisle that I will never forget. I remember so often visiting with Anthony Spaulding at his home and listening to a tremendous array of fabulous music in his study. Winston's father served with us shoulder to shoulder at one stage. But I want, if you might permit me, to recount a little incident when his father passed and was buried at the Catholic cemetery on Brentford Road. Douglas Vaz and a bunch of us went, and Douglas had just won, and I had not won or anything. I ran, lost, and nonetheless, we all turned up at the funeral, at the graveside. And I'll never forget this as long as I live. It was a motivation to me. Some of the women who I came to know very well afterwards and came to work with saw us, and I heard them say, "Who that one?" And one said, "That's Douglas Vaz." And they said, "Then who is the one beside him?" I said, "Carl Samuel." "Oh, turn about at him, poor thing. Him soon gone. He won't be here with us." Well, that was approximately nearly 43 years ago. So it goes to show you that it is not always worthwhile to be dismissive of someone, no matter how insignificant at the time you might believe them to be. I have learned a lot. I have learned a lot by my association with Winston Spaulding. His honesty, his integrity, his ability to work hard, and his commitment to principles that should be endearing to all of us. His wife is an absolute, as the House leader said, absolute tower of strength. Was always to him and was with him to the very end. Although he had been suffering from an ailment that made the job of caring for him exceptionally difficult, and one that required a lot of personal sacrifice for many, many years. And so I commend her wholeheartedly for what she did to him in his final days. And his efforts to help Jamaica should never, ever be underestimated or overlooked. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And again, congratulations to you on your new appointment as Deputy Speaker of this Honorable House.
Huh?
Some may wonder why a young man like me would be standing to pay tribute to Winston Spalding. The Speaker, the leader of government business, and the Speaker before me would know that I met Winston Spalding, who I later referred to as Uncle Winston, in 1975 at the tender age of 12 years old, because he became one of the most loyal and trusted friends of my late father in a period, as was said before, that was a very, 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 very unfortunate political period in our history. And based on the times that we were facing, I was able to sit and listen to Winston Spalding and my father, Carl Samuda, Ed Bartlett, and all of the group of that era discuss their plans as to how to save Jamaica and its democracy. I listened keenly. I saw the sacrifices that were made. You're talking about Winston Spalding, one of the greatest legal luminaries in this country, who gave up everything as others did to concentrate full-time on politics at great personal sacrifice. He was there through thick and thin, and based on his legal background, as was said before, he was front and center of the legal case in Eastern Hanover at that time. I can see him in front of me in those thick, dark glasses, regardless of whether it was midnight or midday. And he too made a huge sacrifice because his family and their political support started not with the Jamaica Labour Party. So as was said, at one point, he was across the aisle from his brother, which obviously must be an uncomfortable feeling for two brothers to be on either side of the aisle. But he felt so committed and he was so patriotic that he was prepared to do what was right for Jamaica. I spent many, 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 many hours up at Red Hills, East Kirkland Heights. I can see the house on the corner right in front of me with that big wall. And him giving us all of those stories. So, in memory of both my father and Winston Spalding, it would be remiss of me if I didn't stand here today, because he also became a mentor to me and represented me in many legal matters during my business life. He was a true patriot, but most importantly, a family man going beyond the call of duty at all times. His wife, Ann Carroll, was always there to make sure and support him and give him all the support in his political career and, of course, in terms of running the household in his absence. So I really am honored to be able to stand up here and to pay tribute to Winston Spalding. May his soul rest in peace, as he richly deserves the rest. Thank you.
Okay. At this time, as a former member of the House of Representatives of Jamaica, that we ask that we stand for a minute of silence for the former member. May his soul rest in peace and life perpetually shine on his face. Statement by ministers. Okay.
Mr. Speaker, there are no statements by ministers today, except I just would implore you to, in the traditional way, so instruct the clerk of the House to send the appropriate letter to the family of the late Winston Spalding. May it please you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. As is requested, Clerk, Madam Clerk, that be carried out. Announcement. Bills brought from the Senate. Petitions. Papers. Reports from committees. Notice of motion given orally.
Ed, you do it. Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice that the next meeting of the House I will move. Be it resolved, with reference to the resolution approved by this Honorable House on the 19th day of April 2023, appointing a select committee to sit jointly with a similar committee to be appointed by the Senate to consider the Criminal Justice Administration Amendment Act 2023, the Offenses Against the People's Act 2023, and the Child Care and Protection Amendment Act 2023, that the committee be allowed to hold virtual meetings, whether wholly virtual or partly virtual and partly physical, utilizing available information and communication technologies in the manner more specifically outlined below. Preserving the rights, powers, and privileges, including voting rights, normally accorded to a member of a committee. The committee is empowered to 1, convene and hold meetings in virtual spaces created using information and communication technologies which shall be considered committee meetings for the purpose of the mandate of the committee. And 2, to allow access and participation from remote locations, as are enabled by means of information and virtual technologies by members and other persons authorized by the committee. 3, include members assessing and participating from remote locations as part of its quorum. 4, receive, consider, deliberate on, and respond to feedback and submissions in formats, modes, and media, and via platforms, modes, and media enabled by means of information and communication technologies from any person. And fifthly, to consider any and all information generated, communicated, and received via formats, platforms, modes, or media as enabled by means of information and communication technologies as forming a part of the record of these committee meetings. And be it resolved that any meeting held by the committee in this manner prescribed above, prior to the approval of this resolution, be deemed a duly constituted meeting of the committee. And be it further resolved that the committee be empowered to sensitize citizens and canvass their views by utilizing available information and communication technologies to conduct virtual town hall meetings and to engage in other forms of public consultation. Mr. Speaker, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take the motion. May it please you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and answer? Motion that may be made at the commencement of public business requiring notice. Motion relating to the sitting of the House. Motion for leave to introduce bills. Presentation of bills without leave of the House first obtained. Public business.
Mr. Speaker, I now move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take the motion, notice of which I gave earlier.
Those in favor? Those against? Ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the motion be approved.
The question is on the floor that the motion be approved. Those against? Ayes have it.
I'll be happy to give it. Okay. Madam Speaker, I just rise just to Mr. Speaker with the bow tie. I'm sorry. This Honorable House will recall that as part of the 23-24 revenue measures, I announced that the general consumption tax on the importation of live horses, small ruminants, and pigs will be eliminated to facilitate improvement in the breeding stock on the local market effective July 18, 2023. Mr. Speaker, the measure with respect to small ruminants and pigs was made permanent by way of a July 19, 2023 GCT order. However, with respect to live horses, due to a number of tariff codes that represent horses on our local market, only a part of the measure was implemented by way of that order. So there are lots of tariff codes for horses, it only had some of them. As such, to address the remaining tariff codes, there was an order pursuant to the provisional collection of tax order. That's just provisional. What the law says is that if I introduce it in the budget, I have 6 months to make it permanent. If you not make it permanent in that time, you need a provisional collection of tax order. So that's what you did. Thank you very much while I was away. That was done to make sure that our citizens could get the totality of the benefit as envisaged when the benefit was announced. That order was confirmed in this Honorable House last week. Mr. Speaker, today I seek to make the order with respect to these remaining tariff codes permanent. This measure, Mr. Speaker, is intended to stimulate the growth in the horse racing industry by encouraging the importation of better quality horses, given the fact that the breeding stock has been totally, I'll use a non-horse word, but depleted, meaning it's not able to regenerate itself without imported stock. This will continue to foster growth and sustainable development in the sector, as these horses will be used to improve the breeding stock available on the local market. Mr. Speaker, I now seek the affirmation in this House of the General Consumption Tax Amendment of Schedules Number 2, Order 2023.
Mr. Speaker, the opposition has no objection. When the matter came before us, we supported it, and this appears to be an administrative correction to something. So we have no objection to what the minister is proposing.
I ask, therefore, Mr. Speaker, that it be affirmed and approved.
The question is on the floor. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, let's allow for this very next and most important item on the agenda to have its course. I beg to move for the continuation of the State of Constituency debate. And why are you so? Allow us to have a good opportunity to introduce the So, Mr. Speaker, now that the stage is set, and I think members have had a chance to settle, may I invite you, Mr. Speaker, to have the member from Portland Eastern to make her presentation.
Just before, member from East Portland, at this time, you have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, the seeds of prosperity have been planted. Oh, yes. They are growing, and now is the time to nurture the trees of prosperity so that they can bear fruits for all Jamaicans from all walks of life to make their dreams come true. I feel a sense of pride that another woman has taken over as the Speaker of the House. Congratulations, Mr. Speaker, on your appointment. It is also with pride that I look around and see my sisters on both sides of the aisle. We created history in 2020 with 18 women in the House of Representatives, the largest female representation ever. With 29% females, this is the first time female representation in the House was more than a quarter of the total membership, this under a JLP government. Mr. Speaker, as the first female member of Parliament in the history of my East Portland, one of the goals of my entry into representational politics is to show that women can take their rightful place in any sector they want, male-dominated or not. Mr. Speaker, no space was reserved for any female sitting in this honorable House. We are all here on our own merit. We do not need spaces held for us in 2023. I believe that parity is the way to achieve the equity and equality we are working towards. This government is committed to leveling the playing field through legislation and continues to enforce legislation such as the Employment Equal Pay for Men and Women Act to achieve equity and equality. Safe working environments for women is a must in all sectors. Since my last presentation, the Sexual Harassment Protection and Prevention Act, passed in 2021, came into effect July 3rd, 2023, a major safeguard for women. I must congratulate Minister Grange for her tireless efforts in this critical area. Mr. Speaker, personally, it was my goal when I entered representational politics that I achieve parity with our political representatives in East Portland. Madam Speaker, I am here to say to all that when the next local government elections are called, this goal will be achieved. Two female councillor caretakers, Rosemary Lindo and Shanique Green, will join me in representational politics. Along with our sitting councillor, our mayor, Paul Thompson, and two male councillor caretakers, Emile Rodney and Atlee Clary. Mr. Speaker, Nine love. Mr. Speaker, I urge all females to unite instead of fight. Hold hands and unite so we can get this show on the road by playing our part individually and collectively to achieve parity at a faster pace. After all, it was Margaret Thatcher who said, if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman. Mr. Speaker, it is an undeniable fact, and I speak of my sisters on this side of the aisle, that our collective performance for female members of Parliament have been lauded across the island. I want to thank my sisters on both sides of the aisle for their continued actions. We are nurturing the trees of prosperity. Mr. Speaker, sports is a great unifier. The Anne-Marie Vaz Women's League for high schoolers, established in 2019, paused due to COVID-19, in April of this year completed its third staging. Madam Speaker, globally women's football is on the rise. Jamaica must ensure that preparations and funding are in place so that the raw talent unearthed in the Anne-Marie Vaz Women's League, such as Gemma Jones, Jelisa Clark, and Tashelle Davis, can be found and nurtured. Mr. Speaker, I urge the Minister to ensure that as the economy continues to strengthen, funding is put in place for women's football, not only at the high school level, but at the primary level across the island. I will do my best to ensure this league is a legacy for all young women in high schools in Portland long after my exit. Mr. Speaker, the fiscal outlook for Jamaica is the best in history, and therefore I know this appeal will not fall on deaf ears. In addition to the Anne-Marie Vaz Women's League, we have supported numerous sporting events by providing funds for other football leagues, for cricket, netball, and track and field. Madam Speaker, sports teaches discipline, commitment, dedication, and hard work, qualities needed for a prosperous and successful life for all individuals who dare to dream of a better life. Mr. Speaker, Carter Park is our main sporting center, and it's our aim to develop it into a world-class sporting facility in the East. This will be done through public-private partnership at an estimated cost of $150 million. So far, $23 million has been spent on stands, etc., with a further allocation of $9 million to sort sewage issues. I am pleased to announce that we have received lights thanks to SDF and are awaiting the posts and wiring to make the dream of night football a reality. MP Vaz and Dunn, night football is no longer a dream, but will soon be a reality at Carter Park. Let the night games begin. We are nurturing the trees of prosperity. Madam Speaker, I want to thank the Prime Minister for his vision for the South Coast Highway Improvement Project. This multi-billion-dollar investment in the forgotten eastern end of the island. Madam Speaker, to say that the journey to making this highway a reality has been filled with pain, not only by me and my constituents, but for the numerous visitors to my beloved Portland. To say it has been a pain is definitely an understatement. Mr. Speaker, but like anything else, nothing good comes without a struggle. Madam Speaker, this highway is already providing economic gains for my people in the form of jobs. Kalia Reynolds, Jamaica's leading business and financial journalist, reported in August of this year that land prices have increased 61% since 2019, when I was first elected and the highway was announced. Mr. Speaker, the local contractors and I have been bearing the brunt of this crisis. One of the many things contributed to the crisis is the fact that these contractors have never undertaken the scope and magnitude of the work that they have been tasked to do. Never in Jamaica's history have we seen this magnitude of road network that is being undertaken in the East. Upon completion of the highway, not only will my East Portland family benefit economically, but the contractors would have learned valuable lessons, which will ensure that the continued network outlined by this organization is carried out in a much more timely, orderly, and expeditious manner. We thank them for stepping up to the plate, and we also know that China Harbor has learned valuable lessons. Mr. Speaker, sooner than later, this pain will be forgotten, and Portland will continue its rise as the place of choice to live, work, and raise our families. Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, not only is attention, that word sweet me so much, sorry. Mr. Speaker, not only is attention paid on this highway, but we are concentrating on the inner roads that have been neglected for decades. Mr. Speaker, in my last constituency debate, I lobbied for the following roads: Seaman's Valley, Johnstown, continuation of Kent to Millbank, Cornwall Barracks, Norwich Heights. Listen to action. Yes. With the over $40 million allocated to all 63 MP, Seaman's Valley, all the way to Alligator Church Bridge, is complete. This is a critical road that benefits 4 communities. All road users are still in the disbelief that this road is fixed and continue to express their gratitude. Johnstown Road linking is complete, and this road links Anchovy Road that was done by this administration after decades of neglect. This road is a bypass to the town of Port Antonio in the case of emergency. Rehabilitation of Springbank is in progress, and we will be seeking additional funds to complete this road to Stony Hill. I am happy to announce continuation of Ken to Millbank, Cornwall Barracks, Norwich Heights have been approved and are procurement. And I just got a message that Cornwall Barracks has gotten the green light. Hear, hear. We thank Minister Warmington. You are made for this job, sir. Mr. Speaker, I know efforts are being made to address the procurement problems. The only speed bump to cap it is procurement. We, the people of East Portland, are tired of the bad roads. We need action now. Additionally, our farmers, through RADA spent $10 million to rehabilitate the Clear Spring Farm Road. $20 million was spent on emergency patching of Boston to Manchonil. $15 million was also spent to grade the road from all the way up to Millbank from Ginger House. Thanks to the PMC, Fair Prospect Road has been rehabilitated for $7 million. Minister Warmington, we are now lobbying, and I hope with the same success as last year, for the following roads: Reach, Islington, Scotts Run, Dillon, Marterbury, Rural Hill, Compound Road, Sunshore Housing Scheme, and Ghost Town. Nothing. Mr. Speaker, plans for the $40 million bypass of the town of Port Antonio is on its way. This is desperately needed due to congestion in the town. I would like to thank the Port Authority for hearing our cries and opening the Marina Road on Thursdays and Fridays to ease this congestion. Making representation matters. We are nurturing the trees of prosperity. Mr. Speaker, water is life. Portland was one of the rainiest parishes in Jamaica up to the last 5 years, with numerous rivers and springs. During this time, minimal, if anything at all, was done to ensure this precious God-given commodity was available to all. On the long list of the legacies of shame left by the previous administration, this must be the worst. Talk about 32 years of missed God-given opportunity. If you think having pipes that are not connected is bad, I can say to you that what is bad is having no pipes at all. Mr. Speaker, action is finally here. Over the last 4 years, we have completed numerous water projects for millions of dollars across the constituency. This year, the Turtle Quorum Water Improvement Project was completed at a cost of $35 million. This has reduced the amount of water being lost to leakage and theft, providing more water from Turtle Crawl to Boston. Additionally, when the new lines are commissioned along the South Coast Highway Improvement Project, water will be able to reach Fair Prospect. The upgrade of the Grants Level well, which serves the town of Port Antonio, is in progress. The GOJ provided millions to truck waters to residents through its drought mitigation program. My truck stands as a symbol of public-private partnership to assist in bringing this critical commodity to my people. Mr. Speaker, this JLP-led government is taking steps to resolve the water crisis once and for all through its National Water Resource Master Plan of Jamaica. I thank the government for 2 programs which will ease the drought crisis we are experiencing in East Portland. Water harvesting. Mr. Speaker, I was coming to this honorable house today to suggest that it was time to make it a requirement that any approval given by any municipal corporation, be it residential, commercial, or industrial, be contingent on a water harvesting component. However, this was announced yesterday by the Prime Minister. Great minds think alike. What I'm also overjoyed about is the fact that East Portland will be part of the water harvesting pilot program to commence shortly. Second program is the Rural Water Household Resilience Program. Resilience, Minister. We have already distributed numerous tanks across the constituency. As announced by the Prime Minister yesterday right here in this House, the Rural Water Household Resilience Program will commence next week in East Portland, which will see an additional 230 tanks being distributed. 10 of our youths will be trained by heart to do the installation. Minister Matthew Samudo, we laud your valiant efforts in this crisis. We are nurturing the trees of prosperity. Mr. Speaker, education is my passion. Long before representational politics through the One Jamaica Foundation, we understood that education can't wait and have spent millions on the infrastructure of schools in Portland. We know this government understands that education can't wait. It was a JLP administration led by the late former Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Edward Seaga, in 1982 that created the HEART NTA. And it is this government that continues its expansion, giving youth a second chance with access to free tuition up to associate degree level 4. This came into effect April 1, 2023. HEART NSTA Trust is willing to train youths in any field you can think of. They have gone into communities with me to spread this message. Madam Speaker, might I add that education is a lifelong journey and not restricted to youths, and HEART has programs in place for adults of any age to learn and better themselves. In the words of the Prime Minister on October 25, 2023, the secret of growth is not just access to financing and borrowing. There is a significant element of investment in developing human resources because the new industries and enterprise that will come into the economy will rely heavily on the upskilling of our labor force. Yes. Mr. Speaker, I am urging the youth not to be disheartened, to stick to the programs of HEART, to get certified in preparations for the jobs on the horizon. Already several industries in this country are in need of skilled labor, and HEART is providing the vehicle to enable you to equip yourself for this. Madam Speaker, we allocated $7 million from the $20 million CDF funds, in addition to the extra $3 million given to all MPs for the Back to School 2023-2024 exercise. We assisted 40 college students with grants of $100,000 each, totaling $4 million. We have also given book vouchers valued between $4,000 and $10,000 to 1,500 parents to assist them in sending their children back to school. In addition, we hosted a back-to-school fair in Port Antonio, where we did free medicals, handed out school supplies, offered haircuts, rides, and entertainment. Still, this was not enough, and I want to thank my donors for the additional funds to help other children. Mr. Speaker, I am kindly reminding Minister Williams that the Port Antonio High School is still on the shift system, which is untenable. We are asking the Minister to action this. We are nurturing the trees of prosperity. Mr. Speaker, the Hope Social Housing Program is one of the best things done by this administration. It provides opportunity for persons living in poverty who otherwise would find it impossible to realize the dream of owning their own home. To date, the Prime Minister has handed over 1 key to 1 home, with 5 going through the process. Every key that is handed over in this program made my heart swell up. Mr. Speaker, I would like to urge the Prime Minister to relook at some of the requirements for this to be a reality for more people in my constituency. Land and land title is gold, and it is an expensive venture to own land and to get land titles. Madam Speaker, many who need a Hope House have no land or land titles, and therefore this first step becomes a barrier. For example, it cannot be that a man has been living in a shack on a piece of land given to him by his family for over 20 years with a survey diagram be denied a house. Mr. Speaker, in my constituency, it breaks my heart that this barrier is causing them to continue to live in conditions that would break even the hardest of hearts. Prime Minister, I know you will do something about this. Mr. Speaker, I am calling on the government, in addition to the Hope Housing Program, to add a housing repair program, as the need for this is great in my constituency. The proposed Pasley Garden housing development is tediously going through the steps to provide the housing solution so desperately needed in East Portland. We are appealing to the NHT to renew and redouble their efforts to make this a reality. Madam Speaker, every day I'm getting calls. Mr. Speaker, every day I'm getting calls. When my dream of a house going to become a reality? We need more nurturing for this tree of prosperity. Mr. Speaker, we make do with a small allocation from the CDF to help as many farmers and fisher folks as we can with seeds, fishing wires, etc. As a product of farming, I pay special attention to farmers. I therefore ask Minister Green to look at the thousands of acres of rich, idle farmland with the view of leasing to farmers so they can play their part in ensuring that food security will not be an issue for Jamaicans. I am suggesting that a 3-year moratorium be put in place for any farmer that does not act within that time. Mr. Speaker, our farmers stand ready to work. They want to plant and water the tree of prosperity. Mr. Speaker, our free mammogram program through the Action and Foundation and other stakeholders is in its 4th year. To date, we have spent over $7 billion benefiting hundreds of women in Portland. They are taken by bus to Kingston, given a stipend, and returned to Portland. I make it my priority to put in place this program as early detection saves lives. This year, we are doing free mammograms for 120 ladies. Minister Tufton, I see what you have done for Cornwall Regional Hospital. Port Antonio Hospital needs a mammogram machine. Portland, St. Mary, and St. Thomas have no machine, and this is long overdue. We want you to put this in your 2023-2024 budget. Let this be the last year that my sisters have to make this journey from Portland to get tested. After all, our health is our wealth, and we must do all to protect it. Mr. Speaker, my big ticket item today is the request that an action team be set up to actively begin plans for the relocation of the Port Antonio Hospital, which has outgrown its current capacity many years ago. With the increase in population and anticipated developments, this situation is now untenable. Action is needed now. We are nurturing the trees of prosperity. We all know of the devastating fire that ravaged the iconic Musgrave Market along with other businesses. 200 vendors were displaced and are currently selling on the street. The Action and Foundation have so far raised over $40 million to assist the victims and with the rebuilding of the market. We have given each of the 200 victims a compassionate grant of $100,000, totaling $20 million. Even though they are grateful for this assistance, we know it's not enough, as all of them are without a proper place to conduct their business. Other vendors are conducting their business in the sun and rain in Neville Antonio Park. This is the only green space in town, and it should be reserved for the enjoyment of all, especially our children. Also, Christmas is coming up, and many seasonal vendors will be coming in. We desperately need the shed to be built in the Martian area. I am pleading to Minister Mackenzie for his intervention in assisting to get the approval for building the shed, for which a deposit has already been made. A big thank you to all donors who made this possible through the Action and Foundation. We could not have done it without you. Last year, I stood here and spoke of the homeless situation in Port Antonio. The situation has worsened, and the public continues to be at risk. I am pleased to announce that Minister Mackenzie has earmarked the site with funding in place for a drop-in center to help with this situation. We wait impatiently for the groundbreaking and completion. Minister Mackenzie, we are grateful for 3 of 6 garbage trucks needed. Things have improved, but it's not ideal. I'm therefore booking 3 of the next new allotments. Clean and green, we say. We are nurturing the tree of prosperity. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, when I was first elected in 2019, there was no hope that the achievements thus far could have been realized. That's true. I want to remind my East Portland family that although it seems like forever that I've been your member of parliament, I have not even done collectively 1 full term. Let me use this analogy to explain the situation in East Portland in 2019. She was like a tree with wilted leaves and weak roots, undernourished and untended. And like a tree, when you start watering, fertilizing, trimming, and if you know, as a country girl, we talk to our plants, it begins to strengthen. However, not all leaves and all roots will turn green and strong at the same time. But the more roots and the more leaves that turn strong and green, the more chance the other roots and other leaves will not only grow, but the tree will begin to bear fruit. I am urging my East Portland family to hold on to the overwhelming hope that you re-elected me in 2020. I am committed to nurturing the tree of prosperity for all, enabling all of us to become green, strong, and prosperous. The transformation of Jamaica, the transformation and prosperity of Jamaica is happening right before our eyes. This is an undeniable fact, but it will take more time for it to trickle down to all.
Mr. Speaker, the member's time having expired, I beg to move that her time be extended to allow her to complete her presentation. May it please you, Mr. Speaker.
The request is on the floor. Those in favor? Those against? Ayes have it. You may continue, member.
Thank you, colleagues. I am urging my East Portland family to hold on to the hope with which you overwhelmingly re-elected me in 2020. I am committed to nurturing the trees of prosperity for all of us, enabling us to become green, strong, and prosperous. The transformation and prosperity of Jamaica is happening right before our eyes. This is an undeniable fact. As I said, it will take a little more time for it to trickle down to all. This JLP-led government is committed and working to make this a reality. Thank you, my East Portland family, for the confidence you continue to display in me. Thank you to the workers of the Jamaica Labour Party, the backbone of this organization, some of whom are in the gallery today. Thanks to my incredible action team led by Dwayne Stevenson. Thanks to our mayor and our 4 councillors in waiting. To my 5 children, one of whom is here today, my 2 granddaughters, my husband and fellow colleague, Honorable Minister Darrell Vaz, who is my inspiration on this journey, thank you. Thanks to my best friend, Jackie Leclerc, to my colleagues on both sides of the Hague, the public at home and abroad, thank you. Hear, hear. Thanks to my Prime Minister, Andrew Michael Holness, for his continued confidence in me and for not even questioning that there was a seat in this honorable house that would be mine for the taking if I worked hard and earned the trust. Eva May, my angel, thank you for instilling in this proud country girl that she can not only be Mrs. Vaz, a title I proudly wear, but anything she sets her mind to at any age. Much has been done, and much more will be done. This administration is building a new Jamaica, which will bring prosperity to all. Let us unite as we water the trees of prosperity. God bless Jamaica.
And let me give you a hug before your husband.
You get yours when you go. Go ahead.
Here, here.
You're such an inspiration.
Very good, very good, very good.
Very good.
All right, let me just close up. Mr. Speaker.
Members.
Mr. Speaker, I think the exuberance on both sides of the House indicate the quality of the presentation that we've just heard. A wonderful way to close today's sitting of the House. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move, therefore, that the constituency debate be suspended until next Tuesday, September 7th, 2023. November? I must always read what's on my mind. November 7th, 2023, when the speakers will be the member from Kingston Central, Donovan Williams, the member from St. Ann Eastern, or Southeastern, I think, Lisa Hanna, and the member from St. Catherine Eastern, Denise Daly. And on Wednesday, Mr. Speaker, September 8th, Mr. Speaker, I'm going to have a word with the clerk afterwards about these prompts. It is an ember, but it's not September, yes. Honorable Omar Davis, the member from St. James Southern, and Dr. Maurice Guy, the member from St. Mary's Central, will be speakers on Wednesday, November 8th. I'll be bringing the 3 million. Yes. So that we make sure that you will be a wonderful opposition spokesman for finance forever. Madam Clerk, the question therefore is that the motion for the suspension of the debate be put.
The question is on the floor. The request is on the floor for the suspension. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, is not intended to do any further business for the day. I therefore beg to move that this Honorable House be adjourned until next Tuesday, November 7th at 2 p.m. at the George William Gordon House. May it please you.
The request is on the motion is on the floor that this House be adjourned until next Tuesday, the 7th of November at 2 p.m. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Watch the 2023 CCRP Living Legacy Awards. See and hear about outstanding Jamaicans in the field of medicine, education, culture, philanthropy, and more.
I said to myself, no, Miss Lil, you can't do that in the talk of the town, in front of all these people of renown. Nor can you do some Brookings or Dinky Mini Ben or Kumina or Revival spin around.
You're having a wonderful time?
Watch the CCRP Living Legacy Awards and be entertained, inspired, and edified. The 2023 CCRP Living Legacy Awards, Monday at 8 p.m. only on PBCJ, the People's Station. Tune in Sunday, November 5 at 9 p.m. and experience the passion of the past, present, and future in words and song. Watch the 13th staging of the Jamaica Poetry Festival right here on PBCJ, the People's Station.
This is the Aedes aegypti mosquito that spreads the Zika, chikungunya, and dengue viruses. Search for its breeding sites and destroy them. This is the Aedes aegypti mosquito that spreads the Zika, chikungunya, and dengue viruses. Protect yourself from the bite of this mosquito.
A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
We have declared that we're now in a dengue outbreak. The dengue type 2 strain is the most prevalent strain right now. The last time this was predominant was in 2010. What this means is that persons less than 14 are more likely to be affected. Dengue type 2 is known to produce a more severe illness. In addition, because persons would have been exposed in 2019 with dengue type 3 or 4, they will now get dengue type 2 as a secondary illness. And secondary dengue is also known to produce a more severe illness. In 2019, our children were affected severely by dengue, and many of them passed. Now, a lot of those deaths was caused by the use of medications such as ibuprofen, diclofenac, and medications called non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs to treat fever. These medications either cause bleeding or worsen bleeding. I'm asking all parents, please consult with your pharmacist. Use only medication, paracetamol or acetaminophen. Use tepid sponge to lower the fever, and if that works, then you don't have to go to medication. But again, I stress, avoid ibuprofen, avoid diclofenac or other non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. For the most part, dengue is a mild illness and can be treated at home. However, persons have to be aware of the warning signs that say that you're going to go on to severe dengue. Severe dengue tends to happen after the fever subsides and you have a persistent of not feeling well, in particular abdominal pain and vomiting. If this happens, then you must seek advice from your doctor. You must either visit the health center, your private practitioner, or the hospital. If your symptoms are severe, then you must go to the emergency room. I am asking that persons do not rush the emergency departments because the severe illnesses need to go to the emergency departments. And if we crowd the emergency departments, it will delay care, the time to care for these persons that really need to be there.
Jamaica is experiencing a dengue outbreak and we need to take precautions to protect our health. What does that mean? It means destroying or treating potential mosquito breeding sites, including water storage, containers, and especially drums. Emptying dish drainers and plant saucers, as well as keeping our surroundings free of solid waste. It also means wearing protective clothing and using DEET containing mosquito repellent. Let's work together to protect ourselves against dengue.
It's a seasonal task, but with that seasonal task, it becomes a lifetime responsibility. Even when you're out of the parenthood in terms of the personal responsibility of the upbringing of that child, you're going to have the task of guiding that child into manhood or into adulthood. And I believe that that experience in taking the child through school, life itself is a school. So your process as a parent is a continuous one up until death.
Far away from everywhere. With a bunch of mighty little critters, they're called the Paw Bears. These are brave and fearless pawpaws, as everyone well knows. When you get in trouble, and this goes double, you call the Paw Bear. Paw Bears, Paw Bears, Paw Bears. These pawpaws pop up all around like magic. they're there. The troubles that you thought you had have vanished in the air. So don't forget those pawpaws. They'll come from everywhere. If you're in trouble, and this goes double, you call the Pawpaw Bears.
Pawpaw Bears. Pawpaw Bears. Pawpaw Bears.
It gotta be a dream. I'm not looking out the window because I'm not awake. I'm dreaming the whole thing. Yeah. Humongous globs of green goo eating the whole village. Who'd believe me telling him that? I'm dreaming the whole thing. And if I wasn't dreaming, I'd be scared to death.
All the berries are gone.
And all the fruits and vegetables.
I even took my laundry. I wonder how they'll look in my nightgown.
Let me through!
I may never see my laundry again. Calm down, everybody. But they took everything, even the nuts.
No, they haven't. They were on guard last night. Listen to me. I saw it. I saw everything. What is it, Trembly Paw? What is it? I saw it. That's what is it.
You're always seeing things.
Well, I saw this, I tell you that, and it wasn't any dream either.
Well, what was it?
If you let me go, I'll tell you. I saw them, and they didn't take the whole village. They ate it. I want to believe you, Trembly Paw, but don't believe me. Believe my hut. What's left of it, they ate me out of house and home. I'm telling you, they were green, blobby things. Glistening, glugging, gruesome, ghostly, grisly, ghoulies, blobby, and black. They just came up to whatever they wanted and glugged. It sort of glopped into them.
We're talking green jello that eats everything, including laundry?
Huh?
I love you, Trembly Paw, but I think we're talking nightmares.
I think we all know who's responsible for this. Dark Paw!
It wasn't us. He's telling the truth this time, honest.
Lies, lies. I ought to know. I taught you. Now you're bigger liars than I am.
No, precious prevaricator. There's no bigger liar than you are.
Don't try to get on my good side.
Oh, we won't, sir.
You don't have one, sir.
This is just the kind of stupid caper you two mushheads would try.
I've got an alibi, master of mischief. I spent all night with a sick friend.
So did I.
Sick friend? Who?
Him!
and I thought we'd seen the last of them.
Who, Wise Paw?
You were right, Trembly Paw. Your ceiling and walls and everything else in the village that's missing was eaten.
We all apologize, Trembly Paw. No one should ever believe or disbelieve anything without reasonable proof.
And this is proof that our village was raided last night by the greedy greenies. They don't work for their food, they just steal it. No one knows exactly where they come from to plunder hard-working villages like ours. Anyone with any sense runs from them because no one who's tangled with the greenies has ever been seen again. No one knows where they go to, but they seem just to vanish somewhere near a green, swampy place.
You're never right. You never call. I'd never see you if you didn't want something.
Come on, Aunt Pruny. I tried some of your cream of amoeba soup, didn't I? All I need is a new Mino gang.
I'm telling you, those jokers of yours don't have the smarts enough to have done what you said. Sloshing through the village, sucking up everything in sight. It's got the mark of the greedy greenies.
Sounds like something you see after drinking too much bark juice.
You run into them and you won't be laughing. No way. The greedy greenies strike terror into the hearts of every living thing.
Well, if they strike terror into the hearts of the pawpaws, then it's Dark Paw and my greedy greenie gang from now on.
You and the greenies? Don't make me laugh.
All it would take is a little magic from you.
Me? Always me. All I'm good for is a little magic. I sit alone night after night. Do I get hello, how are you, Aunt Pruny? Not to mention a bouquet of thorns or a Happy Witch's Day card. You know, it wouldn't hurt.
Okay. I'll try to remember. What about the magic?
Wouldn't help.
I'll even try a little of your soup.
Never mind the soup. Eat the sandwich. You love it. Lizard's tongues and bat wings on a bagel. Listen, Bat Breath. I can't give you any magic that'll work on them. That's the point. I've tried everything I know, and they just eat it up like they do everything else. And speaking of eating up, finish your sandwich.
Remember, what you're looking for is a mysterious swamp. You may have to seek long and far and face many dangers.
Well, thankfully, unfortunately, I don't have the horse.
Oh, come on, Trembly. You can ride with me.
I was afraid you'd say that.
What he was looking for was a fast way out.
I was not.
Away, Flying Cloud! Away!
Away!
No wonder they call me Dark Paw, the mighty hunter.
Who does?
Everybody does. And when I track those greedy... Who said that?
Everyone knows it was the greedy greenies.
So if you want to take us back, Wanderer of the Woodlands, you don't even have to apologize.
Apologize?
Accept it. I told ya.
A piece of cake.
If I had a piece of cake, it'd go right in your faces. Help! Save me! Save me!
He's gone. Down there. Oh, my gosh. Dark Paw's gone. Where did he go?
I know where we've got to go. For help.
Shouldn't we dive in and rescue him?
No way.
You're my kind of guy.
Right. Let's get help quick. That way.
No, that way. Well, I said help!
I know. And I'm thinking it over.
The vine! Grab it!
Right! I got it!
Well, I declare, they didn't even stop to say thank you. No, Poo Pooch, I know what you're thinking. Forget it. Those greenies sound worse than the Minos. You leave them in their nasty old swamp alone. Promise?
Still no sign of a swamp below.
I can't see a thing either.
Maybe we're traveling too high and too fast.
Could be. Forest shadows can hide things, even in daylight.
So, let's fly slower and lower.
Well, okay. I guess we ought to listen to the scaredy cat. Hang on.
What's the matter?
Those pawpaws, they'll never help us.
They gotta. It's their rules. They got ethics.
Ethics? What's that?
It's something they got that we ain't got. Now we'll see who's right.
Let's land and see where we are.
Right. Come on. Oh, most ethical princess, 1,000 thanks and a couple of 100 hand kisses for condescending to dissent and your kindness.
Oh, get on with it.
Now watch it, you two. If you're looking for trouble, you're dealing with some tough hombres.
We're not looking for trouble.
Oh, well then you've come to the right place.
We need your help, oh gracious one.
Yeah, Doc Paul fell into a terrible swamp.
He was looking for the greedy greenies, so they wouldn't bother you darling people anymore.
He was yelling and screaming, then it closed over him.
So you see, your royal goodness, that's why we need help.
Oh, sure. Anything for Doc Paw.
We've got to help try to rescue him.
What for? He's not exactly what you'd call family.
No, but he's one of us.
Brave Paw's right. We've got to try and rescue him.
It's our way. It's the law of the forest. Now I know what ethics means. It means they're dumber than we are.